Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and today we are talking about one of the most anticipated games of the year, at least for me, and that is Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition. I can't believe as a Xenoblade fan that we already live in a timeline where every single Xenoblade game is in one console. Speaking of every single Xenoblade game, I do have all of them right here, so there you go. Just for those who are like, this isn't a real fan. This is a real fan you guys are talking to. I promise. I beat every single one of them, except for Xenoblade Chronicles X, and I'll go into why in this video review. But before I go further with the review, I just want to let you guys know I finally do have my Elgato back. I finally can capture my own footage, but this is one of those games where I was playing it, capturing footage, and none of it looked that interesting. Not saying that the game is not interesting, but my gameplay itself was just not really that appealing. I'm still learning the masteries of how to capture footage and how to make it look good for a video review. And as I try to grow with the channel, eventually I will get there. But I'll probably put some of my footage in the review, but I'm probably gonna also use the Nintendo trailers as well. So just putting it out there. Another thing too, no spoilers. We are not talking about any spoilers in this game. Maybe a little bit of the premise for the story, which we want to talk about what the story is about. But other than that, we're just going straight into the gameplay and straight as to like what you should be looking forward to getting this game today on March 20th, its release date. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoy the rest of the video. Let's get on with the review. So here we are with the final Xenoblade game that the Switch was missing. It's crazy to think how big this franchise has gotten over the years. I still remember when Xenoblade 1 was released back on the Wii and how rare that game ended up getting. Nowadays you can buy it quite easily, but it's hard to recommend it with the Switch version being out. Then there's Xenoblade 2, which changed the franchise a little towards the anime style we all know and love today. This is when I started to really get into the series, which I can imagine is the same for a lot of other people. It was a big title released in the Switch's first year. I'll say off the bat that Xenoblade 2 might be my favorite. Finally, there's Xenoblade 3, which ties all three games together beautifully. If you played this one, then I can tell you that the ending broke me in the best way possible. Now that I've mentioned the three mainline titles, you're probably wondering, hey, what about Xenoblade Chronicles X? Well, I haven't really played it since it released back in 2015 for the Wii U. When this game came out, I purchased it not because I knew what Xenoblade was and what I was getting myself into, but because I needed something to play on that Wii U. All I can remember from my first session with it was how confused I was about the series. No longer were you playing Shulk, the main protagonist of the first game, but now you're making your own character and playing a game that felt a little off. I don't really know how Xenoblade fans at the time felt about this release, but after just a few hours with the game, I put it down. For my first Xenoblade game, it didn't really do anything for me. Like I mentioned earlier, Xenoblade 2 was when I really started to get invested in the series, and even then, I still never thought about Xenoblade Chronicles X. Well, once I saw that the first game was getting remade on the Switch and that the franchise was starting to grow in popularity, I knew that eventually Xenoblade Chronicles X will make its way to the Switch, and almost 10 years later, here we are. I'm going to start off by saying that this is still a different kind of Xenoblade game compared to the main trilogy, but now that I've experienced the trilogy, I find myself enjoying this so much more. The story is definitely interesting. Humanity has been overrun by an alien race and now have to find a new place to call home. You crash land on a planet called Mira, and although you think you made it in the clear, the alien race is on the hunt to finish the job. It's very sci-fi, which is something I love about Xenoblade in general. In Mira, you find a huge city called New Los Angeles, and this is where you get to really understand what you're getting yourself into. I don't want to go too specific with the plot because I have a strong feeling this release is going to be the first time people will get to experience this game on their own. I will say though, it's the weakest story in the series in my opinion. Now I wouldn't take that remark too harshly. I truly believe that each game in the main trilogy has some of the best stories in JRPGs in general, so it was always going to be a tough hill to climb. One thing that I can't really get behind with is the silent protagonist. I know most games do this so that you can be the star of the game, but for Xenoblade specifically, I wouldn't have minded to have an actual main protagonist who could stand tall next to characters like Rex, Mio, and Shulk. Now, I don't hate silent protagonists, but when you have one in a JRPG, you're putting a lot of pressure on the rest of the cast to pick up the slack. Persona does this beautifully, and so did Metaphor ReFantazio. This game, on the other hand, does have a decent amount of interesting side characters, but none of them are really standouts to me. But where the game lacks in story, it makes up greatly in the overall world. There's just so much life in Xenoblade Chronicles X. I have to give kudos to Monolith. They are known for creating huge environments filled with wildlife and collectibles to obtain, and Xenoblade X has that in spades. In the hours I put in, I can already tell you there's so much to see and explore when it comes to Mira. This is one of those games where you want to do as much side quests as possible because of how much there is to see. The game runs at a solid 30 FPS and is quite beautiful in my opinion. No, you're not going to get PS5 levels of fidelity here, but what you do get is quite impressive. I still can't believe this game was running on a Wii U back in the day, and the fact that it runs better on the Switch lets me know that whatever Monolith is cooking up for the Switch 2 is gonna be awesome. Finally, let's get into gameplay. Now, this being released after Xenoblade 1, the combat is pretty similar. You still see the enemies you're about to face in the open world and engage in combat that's quite similar to an MMO. The best comparison I could think of is Final Fantasy XII. You get a bunch of attacks that have cooldowns, and you can move freely on the battlefield to try to avoid attacks or attack the enemy's weak spots. I will say the overall speed of the combat feels a lot faster than the first Xenoblade game, and is quite addicting. I know combat in general for Xenoblade is something that skeptics have complained about, but I will say if you're curious, to give this one a shot. It's quite snappy, and there's a lot of strategy to be had. I love that you still have party members here that have specific roles, and that there's some party members that you can only get by recruiting them through side quests. It reminds me of old school JRPGs from back in the day. You can also make it where me and you might have two completely different experiences based on who you recruited in your party. Finally, the main selling point of the game are the mechs. Well, here they're called skells. This is what you see all over the promotional trailers and even the box art of the game. Unfortunately, you have to play quite a bit to obtain them. Now, if you're enjoying the game, that should be no problem, but if you're going in wanting to be a Gundam right away, it's gonna take around 15 to 20 hours to get your hands on one. Now, I know for some, that sentence alone might be enough to make them lose interest, but if anything I mentioned in this review interested you in any way, then I think the build-up to them is gonna be worth it. I started off bum rushing the game to get the skulls myself so I can give you guys my opinion on them, but to be completely honest here, I haven't gotten there just yet because of how addicted I've been playing the game the way it's been so far. I have a few friends and colleagues of mine who have played the original and swear that it elevates the game to a whole nother level, which I'm extremely excited about. But as the saying goes, it's not about the destination, it's about the journey, and man, what a journey this has been so far. To wrap up here, this game is definitely the middle child of the group. It's not the beloved original, and it's not the epic build-up and conclusion like Xeno 2 and 3 were. But what it is a Xenoblade game that I think anyone can pick up and play. It's a standalone title that runs really well on the Switch and has so much content for its asking price. Yeah, the story is nothing special, and it's not the prettiest game, but it's something that will stay with you even when you're done playing. I can't believe we live in a world where all of these games can be played in one system. I also think it's cool how Xenoblade 2 came out the first year of the Switch's life cycle, and now Xenoblade Chronicles X is arriving right at the very end of it. For what is most likely the Switch's last hurrah, this is one hell of a way to go out. And that's my review for Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition. Guys, it's out, and we can finally say every single Xenoblade game is in one console. So if you have a buddy who's interested in a JRPG or wants to play a new JRPG, this is a franchise I can highly recommend because you can play it all in one shot. So it's very, very easy to do so. But yeah, I real quick before I end the video, this is most likely the last first-party Switch game, at least the last big one, before we head into the Switch 2 and what exactly Nintendo has in the horizon. And as somebody who's a huge Nintendo fan, I'm extremely excited and a little anxious about what exactly is going to happen. April 2nd's the day, right? That's when we're going to learn so much about what's next for Nintendo and maybe even this series moving forward. But I'm just excited. But anyways, thank you so much guys for watching the video. If you liked the video, please give it a like. If you haven't subscribed, please do. We're going to come out with a lot more content real soon. Our next review might be up actually real soon, and I don't want to spoil what game it is, but let's just say it's going to be a good time. Let's put it that way. But again, thank you so much for watching the video. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.